buy Amazon, you can buy Facebook. So, what is the difference? Does gift city transactions, two parts, futures and cash of global companies, would it really happen? And how tax efficient it is? It does it make a difference from a person who is already doing with a broker, ICICI, Kotak, Axis, or whichever, zero, that the choice remains with the client, or shifting to the gift city would be more attractive from the one is from each point of view. It's a question each of you can answer, and from tax point of view. First, Sunil, Naresh, and Sunil. I want to see if there's a difference question. It's a matter of perception. Ultimately, it's the person who has got maybe, let us say, assuming a person has $3 to $4 million of worth of investable funds, and he's also dealing on SGX Nifty. He's also has a part of portfolio, maybe $500,000 on US stocks, 20% of the portfolio. That's a new thinking among HNS. And then we get ready for the next topic.
So I think just a brief introduction, because many participants here may not be familiar that the gift is nothing but a this is 200 special export zones in India. Bombay, you have Santa Cruz electronic exchange zone, and some of these states are sort of reserved for a particular type of a product, reserved for an electronic product. Some are reserved for IT export services. Similarly, GIFT is nothing but a SEZ, which is reserved for financial services exporters. So whoever goes there and sets up business is exporting financial services from India. So therefore, whether it's a bank or a stock exchange, now both NSE and BSE have their subsidiaries. They have set up their exchange there, and if the foreign investors are trading on that, effectively they are exporting capital markets out of India. So it is meant for exporters who can export services out of India, and if they earn profit, then those profits are tax free. That's a broad objective. Started trading, initially what they did was that there were about 150 derivative Indian companies which were also traded on BSE NSE, like futures and options were traded, and then they added these foreign companies like Google and Facebook and so on. So for a resident investor, it doesn't make any difference but trading on a gift stock exchange or a Singapore exchange or a London exchange, because it is in dollars in terms of taxation, because you are whatever profits you earn will be taxable. The foreign derivatives were not trading because there were no depth, there were no volume, right? So for a foreign investor, they have clarified in that any foreign investor of any category will be exempt if you trade on those exchanges, because they wanted GIFT stock exchange compete with a London stock exchange or a Dubai exchange or a Singapore exchange. So if a foreign fund is trading on Dubai or London, is not paying any taxes in India. GIFT exchange, you don't pay any taxes in India. They have brought in many changes to make sure that the GIFT or Gandhinagar zone is treated as if it's outside India for tax purposes. So,
yeah, that is true. So we are talking about tax. You said for a resident, what about cost? You'll be knowing people who have
cost should be lower compared to Dubai or, because you are dealing with the Indian.
Deal with Indian broker with a tie-up with BSE, or with a tie-up with a broker of US exchange, or who has a tie-up with Gift City, because there are many new tie-ups which have happened in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There's a big line in Gift City. So which will be more efficient as of now?
So at least the GIFT guys are claiming that the expenses are lower there. Expenses are lower for whether you.
To what extent? How many basis points can we crystallize? Because ultimately for the customer, he mentioned about zero. Somebody said value-added brokerage, maybe ICICI, Kotak. Somebody higher.
No, at present, but I think all the operations, see, they are now allowed to trade there, but I think all operation is now in Singapore. Back office all operation.
No, fine, that's fine. That's fine. So otherwise, it's a broker who is a member of the US stock exchange. Then you tie up with that. So cost are much higher.
Brokerage perspective and all this they will material change because the thing is that they are trading here, but all the back office operation is in Singapore. So today also. So from the taxation perspective, only the trade is happening there. So
Right.
that
Transaction cost perspective, Singapore is lower than maybe US. Naresh, what's your take on that? Sunil? Kothare?
So when we look at two investor segments, one is the residents,
Yes.
the other is the non-residents. Those non-residents do not want under because and I'm not talking of NRPs, I'm talking of pure non-residents. Do not want under the terms of taking an FPI. Always prefer the SG. Now, will they come onshore to Gift City? I don't have an answer. Will they move to a broker onshore within Gift City? It's a bigger question because you don't choose a broker merely based on cost. A broker based on his ability to integrate client systems because you're doing volume game. The ability to provide a fail-safe mechanism and the risk parameters that you will apply to any service provider. So these three will take some time. Somebody just comes in and says, I will opt at 0.0001%. That doesn't mean I'll go to that broker. And I'm not talking of retail investors. I'm talking of institutionalized players.
We are talking about all large institutions and hedge funds.
Hedge funds, I don't starting to queue up having a tie-up with BSEA. Maybe time will prove me wrong.
The Prime Minister is trying very hard.
Obviously, but
in spite of limitations in certain tax jurisdictions, including bond markets.
Assuming that Prime Minister's US visit has spoken to, let's say, President Joe Biden, that does not necessarily mean that hedge fund managers across the world will necessarily shift to a service provider. There will be several layers of approvals and evaluation that will be faced. So
any experiences on the last debt planning stage and what is happening in the first few days?
So not on this, but
this week particularly.
I have seen with FPIs, custodian also, kind of evaluation that is done. Or those with FPI registration, they will not go simply with the cost. They will choose a name and then negotiate on the cost, not the other way around.
Definitely, those panels are there, risk management systems are there. So this is yeah.
Residents investing in one of the challenges that residents are facing is that if the funds remain unutilized, there is no comeback. I think
for gift is 14 days.
14 days.
If you send money to Singapore, there is no restriction to bring it.
Here I can add a few. This one is so. See, Gift City is something like that. They are the totally independent from the all perspective. Means even in Gift City, those who are operating, they should have their own operation, own staff, and even you cannot take out any single document from Gift City. So all things should be there. So it is like that. And it is separately under this one. So now the thing is about the point from the when we start trading from there, we should have everything in Gift City. So much of the people don't have this. Today also many of the banks, account opening. Now they are allowed to open the direct account opening. There's some operations there in out of Gift City, Gandhidham, just बाजू में ही है, 5 kilometers पे ही है. So now they are in last 3-4 years there is just so much regulatory pressure of Gift City because how you are doing this? You are not supposed to go within 1 kilometer outside also Gandhidham. उधर ही चाहिए. There are lot of challenges. Your technology, your operations, your staffing. आपका staff भी उधर ही होना चाहिए. It's not like that somebody is from the back office support treasury का यहाँ से operate कर. No, decision making should be there. So these are the totally we cannot imagine also some everything from that response.
Based on my discussions in the initial stages, they said, okay, we are closing our. I want to establish Gift City. So they were very lenient. But as time passes by, as people get attracted to GIFT City, I think the regulatory and supervisory act, and that's why there's सब कुछ यहाँ होना चाहिए.
Yes, sir, and the
They have
bigger
issued notices.
Yeah.
the bigger problem is
For everything, you know, you have got suitcase bankers and all.
सब
यहाँ पे deal करता था, एक दिन जाता था.
हाँ.
so not out of context, but not in part of subject, but in addition to everything else, that's a dry state.
But the dry
So if someone who is actually involved in recruitment or if someone who is taking interviews, yes, face that heat. No, but sir, people like at our designations are kind of, they don't get into 5-star hotels, na. So recruiting a candidate himself says, sir, वहाँ पे तो मतलब कुछ भी नहीं है.
See, security is also important. It is a forest area. There are snakes which.
So practically at the time of recruitment, challenges are faced.
Think about it. Suppose you're driving your car, brake ho jati. There is no other who will. So you know there are many things which have to be put in place.
Recently,
सब कुछ बोल रहा है.
happened to be
Ground here.
नहीं sir,
have lighter.
वाला तो one candidate said in interview.
There is nothing off record. Everything is on record. So after 5:30.
About 2016, exactly 16, I wanted to visit to GIFT City. And to my surprise, I have seen was company, but hardly any other buildings were there. It was a very lost. Now I have not gone for last 6 hours, but then in the evening I went to my friend's house, and as I enter, he asked me what you want to have. पूरा बार खोल दिया, दो जगह मिलता था.
Sir, but वो offices के लिए. No sir.
गांधीनगर और अहमदाबाद.
I was about to complete, sir.
होम डिलीवरी होती है.
क्योंकि अभी हरियाणा में वो लोगों ने 5,000 अगर लोग एक जगह पे काम कर रहे हैं तो they are allowed.
But another lighter moment while Santosh is ready, the Indian Railways is providing all support with the latest Vande train from Mumbai to Gandhinagar. So if you have not seen the latest, you can go and see a luxury experience. Santosh.
Experience when I was working with Brain Carted, so gold bullion. So it has come up in a very great manner. Bank of America has been, ICICI has opened. So now you will find a complete different structure in GIFT City. Lot of organizations have come there, invested in it.
Actually, I went about 6 years.
So maybe another couple of years the picture would have been changed completely.
So they have to there. Other people are also there. Now it is coming up. Whether it will be a big bang success, etc. There are own. So it will take time. Still, it will take time.
Now, whole system of reporting in India has undergone a total transformation since the last 70 years. What has happened in the last 1 month? Many people are not aware of it, but the latest, our newest regulator, young regulator, which is looking at as of now listed companies formally and also unlisted company to scan the whole horizon, have come out with based on his expectations, based on his experience, latest development just 2 or 3 weeks back, a circular on what is expected from the profession, what type of reporting is expected. It is based on certain experiences for the data they have, and they have much more data than anybody can expect. They have access to it. And also, this is the NFRA, right? National Financial Reporting Authority, where the jurisdiction is very clear. And also, in the same month, in the last couple of months, SEBI has come out with his views based on an internal study. One of the senior members mentioned about the new role of a CFO.
Yeah.
Earlier, it was a kind of a watchdog, not a bloodhound. Now, it's not openly said it's a bloodhound, but it is very, very clearly said. And there are some use cases where NFRA has been sharing openly. Couple of companies, some orders are there. Deep dive. Santosh suggested we should take this up. Very important. And a use case, Mr. Satnam Singh has prepared based on Santosh's suggestion, downloaded annual reports based on which the regulator has passed some order, a short case study. Now this will give the way things are going. There are a few other companies, also a subsidiary of a listed company, which is listed. The example which he is going to take got delisted because of over 1,000 crores fraud. over 1,000 crores fraud, which has been noted down by NFRA. Another company is actually a subsidiary of listed companies, layering of transactions, how fraud takes place. Another is also, one can look at it, unlisted one, which is in public domain. Last week also we heard about Byju's, lots of things are happening. But the point is, role of a CFO is changing, role of an auditor is totally changing. In this particular case, there is an example, 1,000 crore plus fraud, reported, qualified. Every year qualify, people we say they don't qualify, every year qualification is there, but reporting of fraud is 10 crores. 10 crores, reporting done, right? Reporting done, qualification done. All the years prior, qualification is there. But what is it? It's 1,000 crore plus fraud. So what happens? Penalties, X amount, right? They are in public domain. 3 years debarment took place. So you can't say I've been qualifying the accounts. I've been reporting. Numbers matter. Materiality matters. So it has all come in thing. So we will do a deep dive. And on this GIFT City, there is a lot of farmaish, and we have a lot of expertise here where let it take off. We will come with some live data, right, Naresh, Sunil? Sunil, actual live transaction, how volumes are building up. What is the experience of people shifting there? And what is the total data volumes pick up? We'll have a separate detailed session on the GIFT City. Proper, right? Yes. Well, here certainly it is guaranteed, but yes. But if the Indian Railways provide a support, it can be done in the train itself, 4 hours journey, go and to and fro. I think we are okay with that. So that can be done, but here certainly.
But Manoj, just coming back to the point which you made, watchdog or a bloodhound, but I don't understand now whether the CFOs and the auditors are being bloodhounded rather than this. Apart from, of course, these are all sad incidents which should not have happened. But in this context, taking a cue from this, they are being bloodhounded right now. It's a very scary, to be honest.
So, yeah.
So, very good afternoon. So, as Manoj ji said, the way we have structured this between myself and Mr. that there is this NFRA circular which was issued a couple of weeks back, which we'll have a look, and then we'll look through that. What are the implications, etc. Maybe 6-7 minutes, and then Satnam ji will talk about the actual, the case study, the real life case study, just to make things move.
From the finance and market angle, but the financial reporting angle, you have to address it.
Right. So first, let's get started with the definition of fraud. Section 447 of Companies Act defines fraud in relation to affairs of a company, of anybody corporate, or any body corporate, includes any act, omission, concealment of fact, or abuse of position committed by any person or any other person with connivance in any manner with the intent to deceive, to gain, or to undue advantage from, or to injure the interest of the company or its shareholders or its creditors of any other person, whether or not there is any wrongful gain or wrongful loss. Now, why did I start with this definition? Because otherwise, colloquially, it's, we do refer to a lot of things as fraud or whatever. But to establish fraud under Companies Act or under the regulation is quite another thing. I mean, it took around 12 to 13 years in Satyam's case to establish that there was fraud for the lawyers, right? So that's how things work in our country. So what is fraud or what is not a fraud has to be, clear in mind. So last week's, newspapers had this thing about, there is this large software company where the hiring, there was a fraud, allegedly a fraud in the hiring process. and there was a collusion between the recruitment agents and the HR department of a company. So whether that's a fraud, whether that's committed by a person, by an officer or an employee, that has to be established. There has to be an investigation. So colloquially, or even going by the media reports, very loosely used term fraud, but to prove fraud, it takes a hell lot of a time, especially in our legal environment. What are the reporting requirements as far as the auditor is concerned? So the moment, this is a new addition that Companies Act 2013 introduced, that the moment as an auditor I see or I have reasons to believe that there is fraud or suspected fraud, I need to, and if it's exceeding certain threshold, the threshold is 1 crore, and it has been committed in the company by its officers or employees. So, for example, if there's a vendor or a customer who is involved on the company, then that's not something that I have to report as an auditor. So, if it is an officer or an employee who is committing fraud on the company, and during the course of the audit, if I have reasons to believe that there is a fraud or a suspected fraud, in that, and if it's exceeding in one instance, 1 crore or above, in that case, then there are certain procedures that have been prescribed in Rule 13 that I need to first inform the board. Or if there is an audit committee in the company, generally in case of a listed company, there will be an audit committee as well. The audit committee has to be also involved. Within 2 days of I having the fraud having been either detected by me or somebody having whistleblown the fraud to the auditor. Audit committee or the board, as the case may be, has a 45-day time limit to respond back to the auditors. Generally, you would expect the response to be in the nature of, we are investigation, we'll look into the matter, so on and so forth. In either case, if there is a response or if there is no response, in either case, the auditor has to file a form called as ADT4, with the central government. It's an online, form which has to be filled. It is filed with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So that is how the regulation sets the role of the auditor. Apart from that, in terms of the CARO reporting, if there is any fraud which is committing, so Manoj mentioned about frauds which were reported and qualified in the audit report, but ADT1, the ADT4, the figure was very less as compared to what was reported in the audit report. So, in addition to this 143.12 reporting and ADT4 reporting, as an auditor in normal course, irrespective of the quantum, I have to report, in my CARO report, whether there is a fraud that is, that has been, whether there has been a fraud on the company, right? So, if the company itself is involved in a fraud, that's lot more serious matter. But if there is a fraud on the company, which is little bit more frequent, it's not abnormal to get, in a company, an employee, making a little more money or having some kickback or some purchase department wala colluding with the vendor and making money out of it. So if it's fraud on the company, in that case, CARO reporting is required. Suppose it's fraud, if it's a fraud committed by the company, it's lot more.
By the company is a person, but if it is a fraud by the management of the company,
Yes.
promoters of the company, and also hand in hand along with the statutory and internal auditor of the company. There are many such cases which are happening,
So
particularly in the small and mid-cap space.
in fact, the last session we did cover, or maybe it was the session before the last, the Supreme Court order in Deloitte's case, where it interpreted 140 subsection 5, section 140 subsection 5 of Companies Act, wherein it in fact read this, in fact, NEFRA has further reproduced this. Yeah, I have it on screen. So what it said is, as a matter of reading 140 subsection 5, even if the auditor has resigned from the office of the audit. So Manoj ji mentioned the name of a company whose auditor had resigned, and it made news a couple of weeks back. And another auditor had taken up the office of an auditor. So Supreme Court has laid down very specifically that if fraud happens during the tenure of an auditor, and subsequently there is a resignation, because eventually, because of the heightened risk, that most of the auditors would resign. That doesn't absolve the retiring auditor from the reporting or lack of reporting under this section 143, subsection 12.
It has come in this new circular.
They have, it was already there in the Supreme Court pronouncement. They have reiterated that in this circular. NFRA has kind of highlighted or red flagged that this is the interpretation by the Supreme Court of the country.
And this circular is mandatory to be observed by all companies and professionals.
So that's again a good question. This is a circular that NFRA has issued. It's not a circular by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So this is a bit inferior in the hierarchy of the legal hierarchy.
No, but mandatory or recommendatory? It's very, that has to be.
It's not, so NFRA is applicable to only certain classes of companies.
Yes, within a jurisdiction. So it is mandatory. No choice.
Companies with external borrowing, external in the sense not promoter or group company borrowing, exceeding 500 crores, and with share capital of around I think it's 500 crores. So anybody other than these companies, perhaps one may argue that NFRA is not
it's not applicable. Yeah.
But for the larger ones, and probably we are talking about only the larger ones, this is applicable. So again, this re-emphasis by NFRA that just because you have resigned from the office doesn't absolve you. That is also kind of and that is what we are seeing in market also.
But 145 also deals with removal of auditors. So the Supreme Court said that just because you resign, that doesn't.
Yeah. So in fact, Sunil, what had happened was in that case. There is a second proviso in that subsection 5, wherein it says that for auditor for a person who is holding the office of an auditor. So Deloitte had argued that I am not the auditor, I am not holding the auditor. I already resigned. So why should, therefore in that proviso I get away under that proviso. Supreme Court they went up to, because that was a question of law. How do you interpret that? So they have now, a couple of months back this order came. They are very clear that if some wrongdoing had happened during the course of your tenure as an auditor, subsequently, merely by the fact that you have vacated the office and resigned, that will absolve you from you having not performed your audit, or you having not detected the fraud and reporting it to the central government. Now this is the main crux of the circular, if I may say so. Till now, there has been, of course, 143.12 has been in effect since last 5-6 years. Although I don't know how many 84 forms have been filed by various auditors. The institute had laid down, it had come out with a guidance note on reporting on fraud under section 143. And amongst other things, this guidance note categorically said, and what is, what I have captured in the...
What's the date of the guidance note?
It was about 5-6 years back. I don't recollect, but
recommendatory, not mandatory.
Guidance note is
it's a guidance
pronouncement by the institute, so it is mandate on the members. So it had very clearly said that if, so 143, the way institute read it in guidance note is, if as an auditor, I am the one who's discovering the fraud first. It's not that the management is telling me that the fraud is. Look the fact that statutory audit, the way it's designed, the scope and the procedure are designed is not by intent to identify fraud or detect fraud. It's not a forensic audit. But during the course of the audit, let's say if somebody tells, which is 95% that's what happens, if one of the persons in the company management tells you that there's a fraud that we are investigating, in that case, the institute's guidance note said that it don't, in that instance doesn't fall within the scope of 143 because you are not the first one to identify the fraud. Right. So, in case of a fraud that has already been reported or has been identified or detected by the management or through the company's whistleblower mechanism and has been or is being remediated or dealt with by them, and such a case is informed to the auditor. He has been informed. Right? He will not be required to report the same under section 143 subsection 12 since he has not per se identified the fraud. So that was very clear, and that was what by and large the profession was interpreting also. Now, if you go on the top, the first bullet point, NFRA has in fact countered this interpretation. It has said that the statutory auditor is duty bound to submit form ADT 4 to the central government under section 143(12), even in cases where statutory auditor is not the first person to identify the fraud or suspected fraud. Very clearly contradicting the institute's interpretation. We'll see how the institute reacts, either by amending the guidance note or by representing to the NFRA that this is now how we read it. So either one of the two will have to do.
So the guidance note actually, since it is quite old, so it would be revisited and maybe it should be modified appropriately. And also mention what is applicable to different class of companies.
And if the institute's interpretation continues to be the way it is in the blue box, then that I believe there has to be a representation to the NFRA that this is not how we read it, and probably amicably they will have to. Otherwise, they are regulators in a sense, and therefore they will have to somewhere.
But it's possible the circular has come after a consultation with all necessary stakeholders.
But there has been no change in the law right since the guidance note was issued. So it's probably a matter of interpretation difference. But either of the two has to, there has to be consensus that has to be built on this one.
And ideally, since SEBI and RBI often comes out with consultation papers, ideally the NFRA should also have come with a consultation paper formally and took everybody's views.
Manoj, another good point. Time permits will also talk about the LODR amendments. In one of the amendments that has happened to LODR, which is applicable for listed companies, is that the material evidence that has to be reported to the stock exchange within 24 hours. One of the events that they have now introduced is fraud.
Now, Parag, it's 12 hours instead of 24 hours?
Yeah. So
He's
a global thing.
Part of a KMP with a top pharmaceutical company. In fact, he was mentioning 12 hours. So you need the two CFOs, two compliance officers.
If it's emanating within the company, it's 12 hours. If it's emanating outside, then it's 24 hours. So, even. No, I'm not talking in the context of fraud. Yeah. Fraud generally would be for that. It should be the movement you have identified. It should be identified. Sorry. Yeah. So if I can just hold you back, I'll just complete the last bullet point and then we'll have this. That's all from the circular perspective. That's all I want. The last bullet point is also very, it's kind of a very pointed, at the professional. So the statutory auditor shall exercise his or her own professional skepticism while evaluating fraud and need not be influenced by legal opinion provided by the company or its management. Very often, practically the auditors, the company may come up with a legal opinion of one of the credible legal firms saying that this is not how we read the section, and based on that many a times many auditors take a position that no, I don't have to report it under 143.12. So the NFRA circular has very specifically said that even if you have a legal opinion, doesn't matter. It's not enough. So that is also something which they are very, clearly they have said that you cannot just get away by getting a legal opinion. Generally, Manojji, you will see that whenever there is a forensic investigation, a lawyer has to be, involved because there are so many implications.
Accused and defendants, yes.
So it can be very circumstantial, right? Evidence and all that. So even if the lawyer says that, this is not a fraud, but it doesn't matter. What NFRA is saying that as a statutory auditor, you have to, you have to basically fend for yourself. You have to look into the matter independently.
But is there any amount which you can
One.
So a company like Reliance, even 1 crore fraud is very less.
But this is an absolute amount. It's not like a percentage of net worth of. अभी जो एग्जांपल सर आप बोल रहे हो उसमें मतलब वो एक बात है 1 करोड़ का इज एन एब्सोल्यूट अमाउंट देयर इज नो threshold basis the size of the company or the size of the business.
Isn't it also counterintuitive? Whistleblower mechanism is supposed to, allow anything wrongdoing that's happening in the company to come up. And if there is this 1 crore, obligation for every auditor to report, then isn't it, companies would not like that their name appears, and so therefore they would like to, restrain the auditors while reporting this.
That's what they are actually saying. The last bullet point, they are trying to say that even notwithstanding that restraint, as an auditor, you have to perform your duties under the company toward the shareholders. I think the idea is for fraud, there is no concept of materiality. That's the way regulators decide. So therefore, what you are aware of as an auditor and what management is aware of should be made available to the larger, the shareholder and the regulator. Perhaps that's where. Under RBI guidelines, there is a specific reporting. So for banks and for NBFCs, there are specific, forms FML 1, 2, 3, 4, where you basically, whenever there is a fraud, because many a times in financial services sector, it's much more prone to fraud, right? So that, anyways, RBI has never, set any threshold or restrictions, and it's a normal course. If you look at any, especially in gold, those who are into loan against gold. If you look at Muthoot or Manapur in public domain, you will find instances of fraud, and it's a big table. It's a family.
It happens. It's a standard routine matter, but let it be.
The intent is that the fraudsters should be immediately known to the larger company. So that's a different intent altogether. Why it is been. But this is a little different. This is
much more broader and.
But actually, it is meant to have systems and processes to see that the fraud doesn't. Prevention is there, and also detection is there. Idea is that.
Prevention, detection.
No, it's essential. We got your point, but one can't get away with sleeping and just coming out a standard format, cut and paste from last year. Audit report ho gaya. Now the world is changing.
And why, Manojji, I feel your point on LODR amendment is important. This is the auditor's responsibility, right? What about the management? So it's important to have that listing agreement also amended, so that the moment management is aware, the company itself is aware, then within 12 hours or 24,
And that is price sensitive. Actually, it applies to price sensitive information.
Absolutely.
No, this we are just because this is a topic.
Sensitive information is
Determined by the market, and market is supreme. Market is supreme. Simple.
And it is subject to SEBI's interpretation and our interpretation. If our interpretation, it was not, but SEBI interpretation.
And markets interpretation by way of movement in prices. Acha, this is over. The slide.
Yeah. I mean the
NFI circular is over. So 26th June it happened. Our last roundtable 24th of June. Latest, and we are always ready with the deep dive into it. And are you ready? Can it be shown on the screen? If it can be shown, this is really, when you look at it, within a few hours, he has done it. Information is not available readily, but it is quite insightful, and it will send shockwaves among professionals when you see it. Just I think a couple of pages are there.
The whole point is, when the management knows there's a fraud, instead they are not committed, somebody in the organization. So they will report. But if the management themselves committed fraud, there is no question. No, most of the fraud are by management only. One is bigger fraud,
Satya himself was a management.
That is old. What about Baiju?
Baiju's ILFS, I mean,
What about Baiju? Question marks.
Manoj, here is where the subjectivity lies. The name that you get is the fraud or is it a
So for fraud, we can say go mechanics.
yeah.
The borrowers have reported it.
Again,
Borrowers,
to establish fraud.
lenders. This is about against the borrower. They are terming it as.
the classic case is the decision is going to come there. Prohibited for 12 months, right? Yeah, because they passed on, the circular passing of importance in 89 companies and all that. Now, auditor only catch all these. So, any transaction with the subsidiary companies, the related party transaction with their, what they call, they are committed in commercial terms and all. How is he determined? Audit बाजू में रखे उस forensic करना पड़ेगा उसको.
No, not at all. One second.
Reliance Capital was similar.
Ultimately, to finally conclude ये fraud है.
No, it's not similar. Reliance Capital, there is a official complaints by the banks to crime authorities. It is a fraud, and it is also disclosed in that. Reliance Home Finance also. In Reliance Home Finance, 9 banks have reported it is as a fraud. It is only recently in the last 1 month, Supreme Court has said you should give opportunity to the company to be heard before declaring as a fraud. 9 banks have reported this Reliance Group company as a fraud. So, and it is mandatory. First, they have been told, in fact, by the auditor, to lodge an FIR. And they lodge an FIR, investigation may or may not take place. Investigation may or may not take place depending on how powerful the promoter is. And he mentioned the company's name, but the point is auditor. How does he know? Auditor knows, but auditor goes on evidence. Based on evidence, he will report. If there is no evidence, and in the case he mentioned that media company, there is no evidence at all. Possibly it is the council, Janaka Dwadara, has clearly said there is no evidence. It could be a presumption, and that could also be driven by vested interest and.
Based on years.
Yes, it has to be based on evidence. And incidentally, the auditor goes on evidence. Yeah. So it's coming.
Yeah.
So this is just there for effect. So you'll have to read out.
Yeah.
Main is this, go into the sensitivity of this profession, and the stakeholders should be sensitized.
We the corporate world, the way this frauds happen, right? And there are many ways of doing it, right? And in this particular case,
before that, Mr. Satnam Singh has huge industry experience and with several companies as a CFO, multinational companies and large business houses also. Yeah. So let's puts the perspective, financial reporting perspective. Santosh, you put this into.
So this particular company called SRS Limited, and it's basically North India-based company. So they had 3 businesses. One was the gold and jewelry division, the retail division. They had a mall. And then they had a cinema exhibition business. So they had 38 screens plus 12 screens, so around 50 screens across 2 companies. So the directors were some Jinda and Roundtable and all the people. So those were arrested also. FIR there under judicial custody. There were joint auditors, SVP Associates and Oswal Sunil and Company. So this company was listed company. It got listed way back in 2019 only. But it's obviously right now we are 2023, but the NFRA got hold of this whatever filings is a listed company and all these circulars. So behind the scene, Manoj ji obviously knows it. So I was told to compile these things. I compiled it. So
So this was one company which NFRA looked into it, and they came up with such a circular.
Order is already passed.
Right.
And incidentally, this company has multiple verticals.
Multi-vertical.
Malls,
Malls,
exhibitions,
gems and
jewelry,
and
SRS.
see, as I think this guy, my gut feeling is this guy got inspired from the other gems and jewelry.
That is
guy
one.
was
That is
hired.
one. Cinema is another business. Jewelry is another business.
Right.
And real estate malls. These are the fertile ground.
Right. In fact, one of the
Depends on
malls,
intention.
one of the their property in Gorakhpur, they took it for 8.5, 9 crores. So they sold for 1 crore rupees. Land prices के इतना 90% कम हो जाएगा. So obviously the chances are कि both ways, purchase price was inflated, right, through the company shareholders fund, and money went to the promoters through some other route, and sale price was underreported. So they would have done the combined tricks to siphon on the money. So coming back to this note, they also had a public investment of 89 crores. So first, October 2016, they filed for the extension of the repayment of the public deposits, and then NCLT, they approved it. But then again, it went to NCLT. Finally, they couldn't repay it, and the company, then SBI filed for the CIRP, that bankruptcy proceeding, and the order got passed in August 18. Obviously, company is also getting investigated by SFIO, State also Investigation Office, and executed Enforcement Directorate. And the last traded price was 15 paisa. As far as the exposure is concerned, it was more than 1,000 crore. SBI had around 500 crore in CC limit, and demand loans were around 1.5 crore. Bank of India 2 crores. So around 1,000 crore in total. So that's where
You said SBI 500 crores.
500 plus 137, around 650.
Okay, then
Right. Then Bank of India 2 crores.
Okay.
Then Union Bank 1 crore.
Right.
OBC 1 crore. Cindy Bank just 40.
Yeah.
40.
Okay, Taiwan ka diya 1 crore.
No, it's a point is they have multiple bankers.
66 crores, sorry, 66 crores.
66 is huge.
Yeah, it's sorry.
And your last annual report of 19 shows IPS director.
Yeah. So obviously then went to CIRP. So the RP was appointed. What I could gather from the annual report, what was the modus operandi? The auditor's report says purchases as well as sales, they didn't get the sportings. There was a branch in UAE where the bank account was there. That auditor didn't get the bank statement for that branch, right? So I guess CC limit was there. So obviously CC limit and the stock, the bank guy would have come for the inspection also. So they may have been managed or something. आपने intimation जरूरी दिखा के उसको रफा दफा किया कि वो बच्चे लोग भी भेजते हैं वो, right? So the kind of thought process which would have gone in doing all this siphoning of 1,000 crore can be seen easily. So more than out of this, so what the other thing which I realized after studying this, the money in financial year 18, they showed losses from discontinuous business. Normally, as an investor, we say, ठीक है अभी business बंद हो रहा है, discontinuous तो छोड़ो.
It is very important
I
the way it is
myself do it that
classified.
way.
Yes.
But after doing this annual, reading this annual report, oh yeah, this is another way of मतलब fine, understand fraud होता है, पर लेकिन कैसे बेवकूफ बनाना है मतलब आदमी को कि डिस्काउंट में चलो अभी कंटिन्यू प्रॉफिटेबल है. It will start doing well going forward.
No, market looks at the future.
Yeah.
So often you
Because
see from that
analyst
point.
sees that distribution is done, but the way the company did was, yes, put it in a bucket and then see, 90% of people will not get into it, but 10% will go into it. Yes, what is there? Why this 1,400 crore rupees is discontinued, right? So only few people will do that, right? So out of this around 1,400 crore, 1,200 crore was written off from the receivables and loans, and all those were provided in earlier years. So when we are seeing balance sheet, obviously how much provisions have been done, what is the aging of the provision, all that matters. So in 1 year they wrote it off all those provisions for doubtful debt. Apart from that, there were plant and machinery off. Then there is a mall they sold off at, as I said earlier, 9 crore was a purchase price. Maybe it may have been short inflatedly. Sale price was deflated. So by combination, they siphoned the money. So that's what the thing is. And the UAE branch bank accounts were not available. The reconciliation between what is there in the software and what is there in the supporting, that could not be provided. सॉफ्टवेयर में आप एंट्री कर दो, आपको पीछे बैठा है कि उससे सॉफ्टवेयर एंट्री कर दिया, आपने टैक्स पेमेंट कर लिया. All that would have obviously happened in this case. So that's what I guess all these circulars, all this emphasis now is being, in this case, keep on coming time and again. So some of the red flags, which was, as I mentioned, what was on the UAE thing, then the sales and purchase, what is there in software, what is there in the supporting, that was not provided. No question. And other thing which I could understand from here for me also was a revelation. 65 lakh rupees shown as advances to employees. So those two things could have happened. Either the promoter himself, Mr. Anil Jindal, was the man who was looking after the employee losses. Either he would have bribed his employees कि वे चुप रहने का 65 lakh, or he showed it as advances to his employees because there was no confirmation from the employees to siphon of that 65 lakh in the name of the employees. So anything could have been possible, or could have been a combination of both the things. कि एक्चुअल में किसी एम्प्लॉइज को चुप रहने के लिए पैसा दिया, और किसी को नहीं भी दिया और बुक्स में दिखा दिया. So this 65 lakh went off like that. So this is what practically people do.
Possibly it will be a genuine loan to an employee.
Possible that also.
Possibly for home loan or relocation.
Had it been shown that the auditor would have been provided with the evidence, confirmation. But yeah, confirmation can also be false, right? That's probably the other thing, right? That's another step of it. So these are the red flags which were there. Other red flags one can see is even before the arrest of the promoters in April 18, there were directors frequently getting changed. So they were coming, they were going. So that is also a red flag for an auditor. Yes, why the directors are coming and going, right? Obviously, then balance sheet में provisions है, all that वो है. लेकिन ये भी is one of the red flags. Yes, if the directors are coming, going. Like somebody, there was Mr. Anil Jindal, there is Sachin Jindal. So he was first MD, then he became a whole-time director. So frequent change in the board also.
But that's the promoter's family.
Yeah.
The Jindals are the promoters. No.
Some other Jindal.
No. They are highly respected.
SRS Limited.
Among lenders and equity holders.
हाँ अभी listed नहीं है 2019 में.
And government also. Yeah.
Both the brothers.
So that's what I could gather from annual report in 3-4 hours. So obviously there will be much more in it, and investigations are going on. So that's what my understanding from.
But great work he did in a few hours. Latest, it was not available. It was novel. He went to the website. I was expecting the website also. They go away such sick companies. But 19 annual report came. 9 year it was not available. But previous year's report it was available. Again, I told him, Santosh will do a deep dive, and you do. But, when you make a presentation before such class in roundtable, it has to be really good. And now Santosh, 2 points for you, very clearly. And anybody in the roundtable who has experience on financial reporting. 2 points. This actually annual report for 1918. 19 happened that IP is there, but 18 the fraud happens, and action was taken by the regulator for debarment for 3 years. Reasons justified. Why? 1,000 crore plus fraud. Your number, I think you got 1,400 X, right? So receivables, inventory, and multiple verticals. Now there are 2 points. When you see the 19 report, last available, and the 18 report, the way report has been drafted, notes to accounts, multiple level, proper. The chartered accountant has been very skillful, whether the CFO or the VP finance or the auditor, very skillful in drafting. I done my work. Who reads, he knows, nobody reads, except some people in MCA or department, or the regulator generally, and some who are go deep dive into fund management, who have got investment when meet they go, ultimately money matters. It seems as he has done his job, including auditor has done his job. Multiple qualifications and notes. And also the auditor report also qualified opinion. So when you see impression is qualified opinion, this is it. But the root cause, it happened because there are CAs and regulatory organizations who are our friends, we keep on discussing. So, NFRA, SEBI, to have a look at it, you sensitize people, you know about it. Nobody really knows 10 crores and 1400 crores.
हाथी निकल गया पूछ के देखिए
Yes, one is that. So how does one really, is this the right way of reporting? Is this a good way of reporting? I think it is good, but point is, unless you do deep dive or have a stake, then you know ये गलती किया है. Second question is think qualified opinion is there, so you have done your job, or you deserve this 3 years of debarment in a small company. In a small company, relatively small, 3 years of debarment. How serious is it when you have qualified the report for several years at a time, year by year?
It is extremely serious. And so the first question, Manoj ji, I think it's important for the auditor to look into, so if there is a fraud and if there's a qualification, one has to be aware that is it the tip of the iceberg? Is it a larger scheme of things? Is it something that is number one thing? Secondly, you mentioned Byju's earlier.
We'll come to this, but here we'll come to
But I'm
yes.
Referring to that because what was the reason that we are reported for the resignation of the earlier?
See, point is.
What was the reason? Said that March 22 financials, March 22, not March 22, not March 22.
22 are not ready,
We don't have the visibility from the management about the readiness for the audit. Right? That's a very alarming. So if in such a situation there is a larger scheme that the management is getting into, by delaying the audit, by delaying the sharing of the information and data from the auditor, then by agreeing to have qualification, you are also satisfied that you have qualified the audit report, and so then you as an auditor, they would have probably so great reporting, you said that note etc. was articulated very well. So that's one way of doing it, right? So you do not get the information adequately, and later you qualify. So actually, from a psychological perspective, they have actually thought through this very well. So the auditor को data वगैरह नहीं दिया, बोल दिया कि ठीक है चलो qualification ये सब जो भी है great.
But इसमें no data सब दिया. It seems the auditor is a party.
So if you look at the FRA,
he was aware of full things. That's why the regulator was harsh in a punishment.
So I won't go back that assumption. But if you look at the NFRA order, the shortcomings of the audit, again in that order, what are they mentioned? Lack of environment testing, lack of layering of transactions, those things he couldn't identify. Perhaps उसके बेचारे को data भी नहीं दिया होगा शायद.
Fully, not fully, partly दिया होगा.
So this is
partly.
The learning, at least as far as I am concerned, is this entire this time issue. The timing issue is also something one has to really look into. The lack of adequate time that the auditors are that is perhaps something that one has to do.
And second thing which I wanted to address very clearly, it came from his view. He went into the fraud, what happened, why, and in the future. And the market cap of that at one point of time maybe 2,000 crores. Last listed price which comes 19 paisa in some exchange, 15 in another exchange. But the point is down 1,300 crore odd in that console report, discontinuing operation. So your gross is not there, expenditure is not there, various type of heads under which you can say fraud would be under that head.
One line.
And that one line also the page number is not there, schedule number is not there. I wonder if you got that. Huh?
Yeah, I mean,
So, page number is not there, schedule number is not there. And then you go and look at the page, 99% of the people don't really do. So, is that a practice as per law to show such things as discontinued operation and
Discontinued
not?
operation is a specifically defined term in accounting standards. So if there is a operation, so for discontinued operation, there has to be an operation, which means that
Fraud ho gaya, subdivision band ho gaye. Actually, that's what has happened.
yeah. So there has to be a business segment or like a geographical segment, which you're closing down and discontinuing. So for example, Tata Chemicals went away from the, they hived off their which
consumer business.
fertilizer कौन सा था वो division कुछ
No, those are healthy companies.
salt वाला.
Yeah,
I'm giving
you
an
sell the
example, a
division.
normal example,
Yes.
so that you can probably.
Yes, yes.
So there, it was
Pulses they transfer to Tata Consumer.
Yeah,
Pulses, all
it's a
that.
sale of business. Yes.
So from chemicals perspective, it's a discontinued.
Yeah, that
Restructuring.
makes logical sense.
It
Yes.
has to be demarcated in such a way that it's a separate business unit or a separate geographical unit. I don't know how granular, how scientific was this discontinued and continuing operation demarcation in this specific.
Point is, it goes into bankruptcy.
It was not demerger.
Everything has to be given.
No, it was not demerger in this case. They discontinued the operation.
Bankruptcy.
Citing losses, whereas actually losses may not be, they siphoned the money from other route, right? Apart from 1100 crore from the banks, 90 crore was public deposit. Even that they could not pay. So money
To be done based on a very scientific manner, which the accounting standard is clearly prescribed. Probably it's not that is a miss.
Now, does it mean in all NCLT cases everything becomes discontinued because operations are stopped?
So that's a larger issue of a going concern assumption not being there. So supposing, let's say, abhi Bhushan and all these things. So if the continuation, the survival of the company itself is under threat, then it's not a discontinued or thing.
It is not discontinued.
Going concern.
It is not discontinued.
Correct.
Here it goes as discontinued because of a bankruptcy is there.
Correct.
So, any other views from financial reporting?
Yeah.
Financial reporting first.
Yeah.
And fraud.
When the auditor comes in the picture for detecting the fraud or you the last person to come in the picture, the person who commits the fraud, the management of those is there. Then the banks, how they will give 1,000 crore loan?
Absolutely. 100%.
My question is that fraud, why only the responsibility comes on the auditor? Why not the people are giving loans? Now bank अभी देखो आलोक इंडस्ट्रीज का देखो 32,000 करोड़ जो ड्यू था कंपनी का बैंकों को 5,000 करोड़ में वन ऑफ those 12 cases
95%.
90 कितना है और भले आपको बेचारे को इंटरेस्ट कंसेशन नहीं दिया बोला तो मैं प्रिंसिपल दूंगा इंटरेस्ट थोड़ा कम करो नहीं एक कितनी बार एक पैसा नहीं जाने देंगे और इधर 32,000 करोड़ का रिलायंस का 5,000 करोड़ दिया What I'm saying is कि बैंकों का तो जवाबदारी है कि नहीं? And why all these things like agencies or
banks are custodians of the public money, right?
Yeah, right.
सर बैंक में तो कैपिटल इन्फ्यूशन हमारे पैसे से हो रहा है ना
रिपोर्ट बराबर हुआ नहीं हुआ ये हुआ उसमें देखने वाला को कुछ क्या नहीं अल्टीमेटली व्हाई इज द रिस्पांसिबिलिटी कम ओनली ऑन ऑडिटर
But then see,
उन्होंने चेक पढ़ा ना इस बंदे ने पढ़ा तो उसके साथ बैठा था रिलायंस में ठीक है 7,000 करोड़ दिया उसको
कितना
7,000
नहीं दिया मेरे पास पूरा डिटेल है मैंने पूरा इन्वेस्टिगेट किया 4,500 का पहले उसने ऑफर दिया then NCLT said it is a reputation cost you have to raise something तो उसने 500 करोड़ दे दिया चैरिटी 5,000 करोड़ और वही आलोक इंडस्ट्रीज को बैंकों ने लोन दिया क्या बात करते हो फ्रॉड के ऊपर फ्रॉड है डबल फ्रॉड है और उसने कंपनी का नाम भी नहीं बदला और उसको शेयर कैपिटल वो भी राइट ऑफ नहीं किया क्या क्या नहीं किया यार और हम लोग ऑडिटर की ये बात करते हैं
No, but in such cases also forensics have happened. There would be report.
मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ खरीद नहीं मिल रहा था अभी उसने भी कैसा किया उसने 12,000 करोड़ एक साल में राइट ऑफ किया रिसीवेबल्स 12,000 एक आप 1,000 की बात करते हो उसमें 12,000 तभी कोई कुछ बोला नहीं और उसका ग्रेजुअली होता है एंड एवरी एजेंसी स्लिप्स और अदर स्लिप्स विथ सम रिटर्न कुछ नहीं करते अल्टीमेटली एंड में बड़ा फ्रॉड हो जाता है
वाला right.
Yeah.
वही होता
No,
है.
now many agencies are playing a proactive role.
My point is proactive, yes, but we're talking about cafe coffee days and the SRS of the world. Why not these big fishes? Correct. Why not these big fishes? Numbers are much higher, right? NFRA, if it's having a holier than thou kind of an approach, that 1000 pages का order लेके आया. What about the ones, the larger ones?
आलोक की बात करते हैं, सुनिए ना, आलोक यूनिवर्सिटीज की बात करते हैं. And this NCLT gave it to, is it Reliance? The Reliance applied for a delisting of the states, which normally happens. और 4-6 महीने में क्या हो गया? Change it, that I want to sort of continue with this. क्या हुआ पता नहीं, and everything was okay.
But in a way, put it into proper perspective, it's an advantage instead of being written off to zero in most of this NCLT cases. When a buyout takes place, this provision is there about 5%. At least that money is there with the shareholder, whatever. So that is a thing, and there is also a possibility of it multiplying in the future. Depends on the way the business really takes off. So, and here also those processes about fraud and forensic audits are there as a part of every company under Brexit. Processes are there. Any other take on this financial reporting and any other take on Byju's? Anybody has certain particular concern, although that is an unlisted domain, but it is really large transaction.
In Byju, auditors can be questioned as to why he did not resign last year. The same issue.
They did apparently did qualify last year also. I think one of the official explanation for why they are resigning is that those issues did not get. They were not comfortable that those issues are getting addressed in the current year as well. So probably.
One more point is why they should resign. Auditor has appointed by the members. So there are stakeholders in terms of private equity who have given hundreds of millions of dollars in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So they are not expected to resign. If they resign, then who? Somebody else will come. Number 2, number 3 will come. And then second thing is what happened. This ballooning stage of valuation expansion, it collapsed because of this in COVID issue, and the new age companies business model collapsed.
Correct.
So valuation came down, and then this is something of that thing that principle is you take from the last buyer of who gives the funds, Ponzi scheme. Some people say Ponzi, right? You take from this. So market cap started shrinking. And then there was some lending, and then lenders want their money, and the company has invested in certain assets or ambitious schemes. They don't have the liquidity, so default takes place, and then they went to courts for the defaults take place, and it come in public domain. And the point is the fees are so fat in this company of Byju. The fees are so attractive. Profit. They are very attractive, and you are doing your job, your stage 1, stage 2 round. That is explained. But then it got a large share of media when the new age companies' valuation in global markets collapsed. It happened here, and then acquisition happened. Several acquisition happened. In fact, they wanted to take up huge number of education edtech companies here, which had lower market cap but large business in terms of number of centers. That did not happen, and now delay. Then the risk is there, but you see the reason of resignation. What is the reason of resignation? Time nahi hai, right?
Pre-occupancy.
No, not
because they are not provided the information.
But sir,
They cannot execute as per plan.
And what else? Also,
Not timely.
also preoccupation. They also mentioned that.
certain times.
Preoccupation meaning they had their own schedule of audits. If you don't give this data in time, they can't complete.
I think Manoj asked the first question, right? So resignation is an important question that you raised. If you look at the way it works for listed companies, if it's the last quarter of the annual financial year, SEBI prohibits the auditor in office from resigning before he closes the financials. Because otherwise, as we have seen few years back, where some of the firms were resigning left, right, and that is now prohibited. So,
Came after Reliance Capital.
not, I think, कौन से बहुत पीछे आ रहे थे ना?
AU बैंक ने भी किया था. AU बैंक statutory auditor has also resigned in bank. As far as banking is concerned. AU small bank
Basically, closing is delayed.
उसका even head internal audit भी resign किया था, तो accordingly उसका share price भी बहुत गिरा है.
1% beverages.
हाँ, 1% beverage का भी गिरा.
So in listed companies, clearly SEBI prohibits the auditor from resigning.
Listed it is prohibited.
Now in
And here it is not prohibited. And incidentally, NFRA circular incidentally has no jurisdiction over
now here
this case of unlisted
in
company.
a company like Byju's, for the stakeholder, they are the process and the BlackRock who have invested money and now your market write-downs are there. They are the largest stakeholders. Perhaps they could have probably pushed them to not to resign and report whatever disclaimer or qualification. So whether resignation is the solution, it's never a solution. Because otherwise you're keeping the shareholders are in lull. Of course, in this company, the investors, they would have much more access to the actual financial information. So when a private equity invests in a kind of a tech company like Byju's, you will have one person nominated on the board. You have entire management control, right? Apart from the founder, you will have access to a lot of information anyways. So whether resignation is an option, I think that.
But Santosh ji, I have one question in this: whether when in certain aspects is going on, see in a March end or something like that, whether auditor is not getting something else. So what is the other alternative suggested in any law other than resignation?
So see, so there is
by lawful. Okay.
So resigning is not unlawful.
No, but I have no other alternative.
Let's take a step back. Who appoints the auditors? It's not the regulator.
Agreed.
Unlike in a bank you will never find a resignation because it's the RBI who has a panel of auditors and RBI has a big role to play in the auditors.
I'm asking from auditor perspective, what is my alternative in law? Suppose
You have to report to the members.
But what qualification? If I'm not getting the support.
No, but exactly, disclaim. Qualify or disclaim?
Disclaim. You cannot give your opinion. You can say we are not able.
So that was the issue last year, right? So last year, March 21 financials, there was a 2-year time gap. You had the whole issue of FMDG obligations not having been accounted for towards the NBFCs. So there was a lot of issues last year. So if the company is not in a position to close its audit or its financial statements, anyways, there is nothing much that the auditor can do.
You see, in this case, would be instigated also. Suppose Byju's wanted Big Four out. Manage with some other auditor.
No. I think that's not so. The moment you have the kind of investors that you have, like some of these, they will not allow them to just unilaterally.
So you can sack them, but you will create such environment that you.
No, they along with the co-director, they wanted a top-class pliable auditor.
So, for example, Manojji, we do. Our organization, we do operates with some of the startup companies where the investor is a very big one. They do a one-on-one meetings every year with the auditor. They do a lot of processes to have that. So they will not otherwise let Mr. Byju even sack the auditor, without any this thing. So they are very, They
have not been sacked. And a new auditor, incidentally a well-known, reputed auditor, not only that, top 10, and another auditor, because there was a pitch, also a top-class auditor wanted to actually bid and take it. The reason, what? We had a good communication. They said, disclosures have happened. in this auditor resigned, so we know everything the world knows. Our risk is lower. Here, why this auditor did not report? Last 2-3 years, there was a lot of maybe murky transactions. So the liability is more. Now everything is known. So the risk is lower. This top class auditor, in fact, he's a friend. So, that's what ultimately the profession is about that. You do your work and you report high quality. So this is a top class. Another top class firm said we have all the disclosures. So it is much easier, and such fat keys, who would like to lose such a client? And this is among the biggest advertisers in the IPL.
Cricket IPL छोड़ो, cricket team के jersey पे
वही ना IPL, yes,
Yeah.
biggest advertiser.
But now Mr. Khan is parting ways with this company.
Reputation, and because of he was caught red hound in the social media, because of that. One client gone, he'll get 2 other clients possibly. So this is happening, and there's a lot of more content on LODR, etc. Over to Yogesh, your duties.
So this has really been an insightful session, right from the tax, gift city, frauds, financial reporting. I express my formal gratitude on behalf of everyone who has attended. Thanks to all the speakers. Thanks. Next session we are planning mostly in the 4th week of August, but we'll finalize it.
Let's speak up.
जाना है क्या बात?
This is one sided. When we are moving the money out of it. How do you get it?
क्या काम करेंगे ये एक से एक से पूरी दुनिया लिख सकते
हमारे काम होता है
ये ले लो ये भी ले लो वही है
बुक में रखता हूँ नीचे
चला घेऊन मी येत होती जेव्हा मी येते कसं घेऊन जाणार